Welcome to Spectation Sports. This is our UFC 264 post-fight show. Just going to be focusing on the main event. I am James Lynch. He is Adam Martin. Adam, Conor McGregor breaks his ankle last night. Dustin Poirier is awarded the TKO victory via doctor stoppage. Just your thoughts on the result. I didn't have Conor McGregor injury on my bingo card heading into this fight, that's for sure.
Yeah, I didn't think it would end via injury, James, but I guess looking back at it, maybe all those kicks and stuff, like they really did take an effect on Conor's leg. And during the fight, there was a point in the fight where Dustin pointed at Conor and suggesting that maybe he had felt his ankle breaking. I didn't really think the fight would end like that, James, but I got to be honest with you. I think Dustin was dominating it even before the injury. Mm-hmm. He was just proving that what we saw in the second fight was the real representation of these guys. He's just a better MMA fighter, James, as we talked about last week during the preview show. He's the more well-rounded guy, as we saw during this fight. We saw him take Conor down. We saw the ground and pound. Conor, so one-dimensional. His striking looked good in the first couple minutes, but James, once again, got tired, couldn't stop the takedown, and he also made a bonehead mistake by going for a guillotine choke on a jiu-jitsu black belt in Dustin, whose signature move is the ghillie. So it was kind of a bad performance, I think, by McGregor overall, but I don't want to take anything away from Dustin because I think he looked outstanding, and I think that a lot of people are just talking about the injury, James, and not what he did before the injury. So for me, it was just an outstanding performance by Dustin Poirier.
Great performance. I'm with you on everything except for the Dustin dominating thing. I thought that Dustin clearly won that first round, and you're not alone, by the way. I saw two judges, I think, scored at 10-8 for Dustin. I don't agree with that. I think part of the reason that Poirier was almost able to finish was because of the injury. By the way, Herb Dean, I saw your tweet as well, should have stepped in a little bit sooner on that. I think he should have noticed that Conor was hurt and stepped in and done that. But I think that second round, who knows how it's going to go. And this is a guy, and you saw in this preview show that I did pick Dustin, so I don't put it past that Dustin would have gone on to win that fight. I just think that, Conor, I don't think we saw enough in that round. Clearly it wasn't going his way, but I don't feel like it was being close to being finished other than when he got hurt. So just my 2 cents on that. It's going to be Dustin Poirier likely taking on Charles Oliveira next. I did have a glance at the odds. It looks like Poirier is the favorite here. Are you surprised by that?
A little bit, James, because I think that in general, Oliveira doesn't get as much respect as he should. Because even against Michael Chandler, a guy who only had one UFC fight, I think it was like a pick'em fight, right? This is a guy who had 30 fights in the UFC. The guy is just constantly underrated, Charles Oliveira. And I got to be honest, James, during his win streak, there's been fights where I picked against him, like when he fought Tony Ferguson, but I didn't think he'd win that fight. Then when I saw him dominate the fight the way he did, I was like, damn, this guy's really good. And I think him and Dustin have kind of had a similar career in that, James, they started off as featherweights that were essentially top 15 guys, but never really contenders. They both moved up to lightweight. Now they're two of the best fighters in the world. So it's just, again, James, further proof that you don't have to cut a ton of weight to be a good fighter in this sport. If you're fighting in the right weight class, you're training properly, you're training hard, like Dustin is at ATT, like Oliveira is at Shoot the Box. These guys can become really good. So I can't wait for that fight. I got a question for you, though, James.
Yeah.
What about a fourth fight between Dustin and Conor? Everyone's talking about this.
That's what I was going to get to. So here's the thing with last night. This is better. Conor losing this way is probably the best thing that could have happened to him outside of a win, because it does leave the door open there. Because Adam, and the sport, it's a little crazy. It doesn't go by regular rules here. The fact that Conor got injured in that fight, people are going to say, well, if he wasn't injured, Conor might have come back. This is the equivalent of the fifth round Nate Diaz, so to speak, in the Masvidal fight, right? It almost reminds me of that. So, I saw a lot of people last night say Conor's done, he's retired. That may very well be the case, but the fact that this ended in an injury, Adam, gives Conor that glimmer of hope of having a potential fight. But the thing is, we don't know the severity of the injury, right? That's going to depend on everything. It's also going to depend on the timing of Dustin Poirier. What if he goes and fights Oliveira, loses, and says, you know what, I'm done, or you know what, I'm going to go to 170. There's a lot of different things that could happen between now and the time that Conor McGregor's ready to get back, but I do think that Conor will come back and fight. I've also seen some people say, oh, he's done, he's going to go to boxing. He can't go to boxing. He's under UFC contract, so people got to remember that if Conor's going to fight again, it's going to be under the UFC banner. But unfortunate what happened to him. I know people have their opinions on the trash talk. We can leave that out of this. Just Conor the fighter. It sucks, and we're not going to get him see him fight for a while. And what is it this year with injuries? Jimmy Crute, Chris Weidman, now Conor. It's just such a bizarre year in terms of some of the injuries, but we'll see what happens with Conor as well. We're about to wrap things up here on our very quick main event preview here as well. Do you see Dustin sort of having a longer career? He's obviously got the Oliveira fight, but I really think if he doesn't win this, it might be time for him to walk away, because we'll see what happens. And by the way, I do favor Oliveira in that fight, so I'm kind of interested in that one.
Yeah, he's a dog, right? So the thing is, they're both 32 years old. That's not old. That's the same age as me, and I don't feel like I'm old by any means. But the thing is, these guys they're taking a lot of damage in the cage. They're not sitting behind a keyboard typing like I do for a living. They're getting punched and kicked in the head for a living. So the thing is, both guys have made a lot of money, and that's the thing. How much motivation is there, especially for Conor, right? At the same time, though, I do believe both guys love the sport, especially Conor. I think he really does love the sport, so I don't see him walking away. And for Dustin, You know what, James? I think it will depend on that fight with Oliveira, but he has talked about, like you said, the move to welterweight. So there's another glimmer of hope there for Dustin, even if he loses. Also, I forgot to mention this, and I want to mention it really quickly for Conor McGregor. Again, we don't know how long he's going to be out with this injury, but James, that Nate Diaz trilogy fight is still there. It's still waiting out there. So there's always a fight for Conor. There's always a big money fight. I don't think he's done completely yet. Is he still an elite guy? I don't think so, but I think he still has a few more fights in him.
There you go. Check out all of our post-fight coverage over on Spectation Sports. Adam is going to have a bunch of articles coming out as I'm stumbling over my words here. Just a great night of fights. I'm James Lynch. He's Adam Martin. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.